Hi, welcome to Anna's Book Corner. I'm Amanda, and this is my review of The City of Mist by Ruiz Zafón. So Ruiz Zafón passed away in June 2020. He had cancer, and I was really sad to learn about this because prior to this I had read his book The Shadow of the Wind and I had loved it, and so it was unfortunate to hear that he had passed away. The City of Mist is a collection of short stories that had been intended to be published posthumously, so this is his last book. So I mentioned already that I had read The Shadow of the Wind. That book is the first in his Cemetery of Forgotten Books series, and about a little bit over a year ago, end of 2020, I ended up reading that whole series. The series begins with his most famous book, The Shadow of the Wind. Then we have The Angel's Game, The Prisoner of Heaven, and finally, The Labyrinth of the Spirits. This book is 800 pages long, so it's quite the commitment. I mention all of those books because a lot of the characters that we meet in that series do make appearances in this collection of short stories. So for example, in one of the stories, we meet characters in the 1600s, but they have names like Sempere and Fermín de la Torre, and these are names that you'll definitely recognize if you've read The Shadow of the Wind. Other short stories are relevant to the character David Martín, who is the main character in The Angel's Game. And then at least one story features a character named Alicia, and I don't know if this is meant to be the Alicia from his final book, The Labyrinth of the Spirits, but that book does star a character named Alicia, so I can't help but think that maybe this story is meant to be an extension of her life and her story. Not all of these short stories are about characters from his other books. There are plenty of short stories that seem to be complete standalones that have nothing to do with any other stories. There are also a couple of stories that feature famous characters. So one short story offers a fictionalized account of Miguel de Cervantes, the author of Don Quixote. Another short story features a famous architect, Gaudí, who is known for his very unique structures built in Barcelona primarily. Speaking of Barcelona, many of these stories, basically all of them, do take place primarily in Barcelona. Ruiz Zafón set his entire Cemetery of Forgotten Books series in Barcelona. I haven't read his other novels, but I assume that some, if not all of them, are also set in Barcelona. But in any case, Ruiz Zafón is true to the style that we've seen in his other books, at least in my case, the Cemetery of Forgotten Books series, and it really feels like a continuation of the kind of personality and setting that we've come to know and love from him. In his other books, Ruiz Zafón really did paint a picture of Barcelona that's kind of different from what tourists might think of the city. The Spain that most tourists probably think of is very sunny and a vacation paradise, but the version that we get in Ruiz Zafón's books is very different. His books tend to be set in the winter times. They tend to be very rainy and foggy and gray. It's a very different vibe, and in his case, it creates a very melancholy, mysterious, kind of dreamy setting. His stories tend to be dark in a certain way, whether that involves crime or death or other kinds of suffering. They tend to be very dreamy, kind of nightmarish in certain cases. They have a hint of magic, although they're not overtly magical. They're not actually fantasy novels, but they do have this certain element that's a little bit mysterious and magical, fantastical in a certain way. His books deal with grief and mental illness and love, but usually love that's tainted in some way. They definitely have a vibe that lends itself to a very gothic style. The stories here really are true to that style, and if you are familiar with Ruiz Zafón's other books, this is definitely a book that fans will love. It is definitely one that really speaks to the kind of style and characters and settings that they've come to know and love from him. I forgot to mention, at least one of these short stories does offer a hint of how the Cemetery of Forgotten Books actually came to be. Not the series, but I mean the actual location in the books. So that was pretty interesting for me. This collection of short stories doesn't offer anything super new or different, but it is something that fans of him will certainly enjoy, and it really offers the kinds of things that feature in his books and that we love about his books. Of the 11 short stories, 10 of them were first written in Spanish. Ruiz Zafón translated 2 of them himself, and the final story was written in English. So for me, this was the last of my translated books for my January challenge. So I really enjoyed this collection of short stories. It's pretty short, only about 150 pages, so it's a quick read, but it definitely was exactly what I wanted it to be. So I gave it 4.5 stars. And I did mention I haven't read all of his books. I have read the entire Cemetery of Forgotten Books series, but I do plan to go back and read some of his other books, such as Marina. So I hope you enjoyed this book review video. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. And to make sure you don't miss any more of my videos, please ring the bell to get all my notifications. I put out about 2 to 3 book review videos like this one every week, as well as 1 to 2 other videos every week. So thanks for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!